For today's cup of coffee, we're discussing battery chargers and stuff.
Yes, because yours is having issues.
Yeah, and this was one that I ordered. It's not even been a year. And so I don't know if it's something with the design of the charger or what. I don't think it's the battery itself. It is the charger.
It's something.
It's something. Because everything is made to be shit these days.
Not everything is made to be
A lot
shit.
of things are made to be shit these days. The planned obsolescence has just been in overdrive for a minute.
Yeah, my TV has done me really good.
Oh, well, that's a good thing. Anyhow, what we're going to be discussing today is, or who is Nostradamus?
Who is he?
Yeah.
You tell me.
Who was Nostradamus? What is his legacy?
What's his story?
Absolutely.
What's his biography?
And it's like, since studying about Nostradamus, I have liked him more. After studying about Edgar Casey, I liked him less.
I didn't like his name, so that because it reminded me of John Wayne Gacy. John Gacy.
Totally different person.
I'm just saying, it reminded me of it, and I already did not like him because of that. It just sounds like...
Well, it just sounded like evil. It to you. Anyhow, our reference comes from Wikipedia, and again, this is a pretty well written article. The link will be in the description box. And please bear with me as I try to pronounce French. Oh, God. Now, oldest kid took French. I actually had 3 years of Spanish. So that's the reason I don't totally blow those out of the water. Those probably native Spanish speakers are going, yes, you do. I'm doing good to speak the English. And I don't even speak the English. It is a variation of that called mountain speak, because we do have our own language. I think every area does. So, but I have tried. I always try. So this one is no different. And Michel de Nostradamus was born around 1503. They're not sure of the exact date. And he died in 1566. And he's known primarily by his Latinized name, which was Nostradamus. So I can do that one. He was a French astrologer, physician, and reputed seer who is best known for his book, Les Prophéties.
Les Prophéties.
And that pronunciation comes from oldest kid because, like I said, he had the French language. So, and
that's all I know.
Well, and basically it's the prophecies is what it is in English. That one I can do.
Yeah.
And this was a collection of 942 poetic quatrains, which means that they had 4 lines to it.
Oh, okay.
So that you know a little bit.
Quatrains.
Yeah. And they allegedly predict future events.
Allegedly.
There has to be a lot of allegedly and supposedlys because a lot of these things happened so long ago, no one knows.
Nobody knows shit about shit.
Absolutely. And now the Prophecies book was first published in 1555. And I thought this was interesting because Nostradamus' family of origin had been Jewish, but they converted to Catholicism. I thought that was interesting. That was a generation before he was born. And he studied at one university, but was forced to leave just over after a year when the university closed due to an outbreak of plague.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oof.
So, oof. Yeah, they'd close something down pretty quick.
Yeah.
He worked as an apothecary for several years before entering another university, and he was hoping to earn a doctorate, but was almost immediately expelled after his work as an apothecary, which was a manual trade forbidden by university statutes, was discovered.
Damn, what the fuck?
Well, because the medicines at the time wanted to poo-poo the herbalist. That's what an apothecary is. It's just an herbalist. So these people have always been on the fringe for whatever reason.
Yeah.
He first married in 1531, but his wife and 2 children died in 1534 during another plague outbreak. This was cool. He fought alongside doctors against the plague before remarrying. So he was on the front lines of this stuff. He was not afraid of this. And it says that he suffered from gout towards the end of his life, which eventually developed into edema, which is swelling. Gout is very painful because it is uric acid that crystallizes and usually goes into like the joints, especially like feet and different things like that. And it's like walking on glass. It's a very painful condition.
Yeah.
And then the swelling and stuff like that, edema is, where you have fluid retention in your body.
Is there a way to fix those?
There is now.
Okay.
But, anyhow. In the years since the publication of the prophecies, Nostradamus has attracted many supporters who, along with much of the popular press, credit him with having accurately predicted many major world events. Now, most academic sources reject the notion that Nostradamus had any genuine supernatural prophetic abilities and maintain the associations made between world events and Nostradamus's quatrains are the result of misinterpretations or mistranslations, some of which are deliberate. And these academics also argue that Nostradamus's predictions are characteristically vague, meaning that they could be applied to virtually anything and are useless for determining whether their author had any real prophetic powers. And we will have examples of this.
Okay.
And the original family name of Nostradam means Our Lady. As in, with the Catholic stuff.
Yeah.
Now, Nostradamus, when he was fighting the plague, he actually became famous for creating a rose pill that purportedly protected people against the plague. And we have the plague doctor over there as our backdrop today because I didn't feel like getting the mask off of the other one.
Yeah, she gifted that to me many years ago.
Isn't that cool? That is a cool thing.
It's been hanging on my wall proudly.
Yeah, and so the plague doctors, I don't know whether people know this or not, the little beak, they actually filled those with different herbs and flowers and things like that.
Yeah, I knew that.
Yeah. And
it's fascinating.
It is fascinating because here was a world that had no clue what was going on, and we've got a world today that has no clue what is going on. Hey, I would have,
But what level of we have no clue what's going on?
I'd say it's pretty high key at this point. At a certain point, around the 1550-ish or prior to, Nostradamus began to move away from medicine. I'd say after he had tried to go to the university and plague kept breaking out. Yeah, I'd do something else too.
Yeah.
And he actually moved towards studying the occult. And again, occult means hidden.
Yes.
Because a lot of people, they want to sit there and go, it's all devil worship. No, devil worship is devil worship. And let's see, he started to write almanacs. And they became very popular, so he decided to write one or more every year.
What's an almanac?
An almanac tells about, like the farmer's almanac that's still printed, tells you how the weather's supposed to be, tells you the different signs, when to plant things.
Yeah.
Which is very helpful, and it's not hard. The things that, any of the signs that are above the waist, okay, if you plant something like tomatoes, you want to plant those in signs that are above the waist so that they will produce fruit. Any kind of crop that grows above the ground. Now, if it's a root crop, like the rutabagas or the turnips or carrots or anything like that, you want to plant those in the signs that are below the waist. If you reverse it, then, like if you plant tomatoes when they are in the sign and below the waist, you're going to have lots of roots and not many tomatoes. Same thing with the turnips and stuff. Now, I like turnip greens, but I also like the turnips. So I guess it depends on what you want to harvest, whether you want actually the root or whether you want the greens. But like potatoes, if you plant them in the wrong sun, if you plant them above the waist, what you're going to end up with are sunburned potatoes.
Sunburned potatoes.
They are, and it's like
Sun-bleached potatoes.
No, it's what happens is that they have these green parts on them. Don't eat that because that's arsenic. Now remember, these are nightshades. I mean, you can eat a little bit of the green potatoes, but not much.
Your stomach can't process it.
Well, no, I mean, it's just that you poison your ass with it. So.
Well, it can't process the raw potato,
right.
And obviously arsenic, poison.
Well, they had told me not to eat nightshades anyhow, but I still do.
Deadly nightshades.
They're all nightshades. I mean, there's some that's more deadly than others. Anyhow, his almanacs, all of them, were supposed to have contained 6,338 prophecies. And he actually had pretty much great response to the almanacs, especially with nobility and other prominent persons. And then they started asking him for horoscopes and psychic advice. And now, with this, he sort of did like I did. He wanted them to supply the birth charts, and rather than him trying to calculate them himself as a professional astrologer, because he could do the interpretations of the charts, but as far as actually putting the charts together, which was very cumbersome back then, and he didn't do too good at that, and he would get it wrong, and so that just was not his forte. It says that he began his project of writing a book of 1,000 mainly French quatrains, which constitute the largely undated prophecies for which he's most famous today. Now, feeling vulnerable to opposition on religious grounds, he devised a method of obscuring the meaning of these quatrains by using different syntax, word games, and a mixture of other languages such as Greek, Italian, Latin, and this Provençal, which is a region in France. So, yeah, you needed a decoder ring to understand what he was talking about initially. And it says that for technical reasons that were connected with the publication in 3 installments, the last 58 quatrains of the 7th century, a century is a collection of 100 of the quatrains, that they have not survived in any existing edition, which I thought was pretty interesting.
Yeah.
So if you find the lost Nostradamus quatrains, you could make some big bucks.
Big bucks.
And the quatrains actually received mixed reaction, and that some people thought that he was a servant of evil, a fake. He was insane. You know how all that goes.
Yeah.
So, and now Catherine de' Medici, who was the wife of King Henry II of France, was one of his greatest admirers. Oh. So when you have the favor of the queen, you pretty much in there. And after reading his almanacs for 1555, which hinted at unnamed threats to the royal family, she summoned Nostradamus to Paris to explain them and draw up horoscopes for her children. And at the time, he feared that he would be beheaded. But by the time of his death in 1566, Queen Catherine had made him a counselor and physician in ordinary to her son, the young King Charles IX of France. So how cool is that?
That is really cool.
And some accounts of Nostradamus' life state that he was afraid of being persecuted for heresy by the Inquisition. That was a valid fear in those days.
Yeah.
But neither prophecy nor astrology fell into the bracket of being condemned during that time.
Luckily.
Now, he would have only been in danger had he practiced magic to support them.
Yeah.
So that was interesting. That was just so screwed up. And it says that in 1538, he did come into conflict with the church in Agen after an inquisitor visiting the area. He was looking for anti-Catholic views, and he did briefly imprison Nostradamus because that he had violated a recent royal decree by publishing the 1562 almanac without prior permission of a bishop.
Wow.
Now, I wonder if that permission to publish came with a nominal fee.
More than likely.
I think
Because it's all
so.
about the money.
Well, absolutely. And it says by 1566, Nostradamus's gout, which had plagued him painfully for many years, made movement very difficult, and again, it did turn into edema. In late June, he summoned his lawyer to draw up an extensive will where it gave his property plus 3,444 crowns, which is around $300,000 today, minus a few debts, to his wife, pending her remarriage, which I thought was pretty cool. And also in trust for her sons, pending their 25th birthdays, and her daughters, pending their marriages. So he made provisions for them, and I thought that was really cool.
That is really cool.
And it says that on the evening of July the 1st, he is alleged to have told his secretary, "You will not find me alive at sunrise." And then the next morning, he was reportedly found dead, lying on the floor next to his bed and a bench. Now, the prophecies, the collection, were basically a collection of long-term predictions and big predictions. You know, it's not like so-and-so's going to stump their toe next Thursday.
Yeah.
That's sort of not in that realm. The first installment contained 353 quatrains, and in the third edition with 300 new quatrains, but now survives only as part of an omnibus edition that was published after his death in 1568. This version contains one unrhymed and 941 rhymed quatrains, grouped into 9 sets of 100 and one of 42 called centuries. And it says, given printing practices at the time, no two editions turned out to be identical, and it is relatively rare to find even 2 copies that are exactly the same. Now that's going to cause some problems.
Yeah.
And he also, I thought this was pretty cool, he wrote at least 2 books on medical science. And he included in some of them a description of the methods he used to treat the plague, including bloodletting and other things, none of which apparently worked. Hey, there is a time and a place for bloodletting and leeching. So there's a lot of those things.
Leeching actually does have benefits.
It does, especially if somebody has had a body part reattached. Yeah, so don't be hating on the leeches.
They look freaky, but they're really nice.
Well, yeah, they produce a natural form of heparin, which is a hell of a lot better than putting pharmaceuticals in there that cause everything else to break down. Now, the same book describes preparation of cosmetics. Can you imagine? Let's have now that as you know, Mountain Goth, to have a line of cosmetics that were formulated by Nostradamus. How cool would that be for real? And
are you able to find the formula for the makeup?
That's a good question. We'll have to look and see on that one. Now, since his death, only the prophecies have continued to be popular, and over 200 editions of them have appeared. It says in that time. I'm wondering if it wasn't supposed to be since that time, together with over 2,000 commentaries. Their persistence in popular culture seems to be partly because of their vagueness and lack of dating, which makes it easy to quote them selectively after every major dramatic event and retrospectively claim them as hits. And that is what people do all the time. But even when he wrote these, Nostradamus claimed to have based his published predictions on judicial astrology, and the astrological judgment or assessment, such as births, weddings, whatever, was heavily criticized by professional astrologers of the day, and that is assuming that the comparative horoscope, which is past planetary alignments, future planetary alignments, that they don't have any, that the events of those times don't have any correlation. And I'm like,
Right.
they were wrong.
Yeah.
They do.
Very much.
So I thought that was interesting. It says research suggests that much of his prophetic work paraphrases collections of ancient end of the world prophecies were mainly Bible based. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
much.
and then he supplemented references from historical events and different anthologies of omen reports, and then he put them together with the comparative horoscope. And I don't know that that's necessarily a bad thing that he took references from there and there. It was a matter of his interpretation of these things.
Yeah, exactly.
It says that astrology itself is mentioned only twice in the preface and then 41 times in the centuries themselves, but more frequently in his dedication letter to King Henry II. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
And one of the things that he did not want to be labeled as a prophet. And there were multiple times that he's like, I am not a prophet. That he had not used the word prophet. So, and I can understand that because that's a totally different thing that carries a whole lot of weight to it.
Could have got him into some massive trouble.
Absolutely, it could have. It also says that it's unlikely that he used any particular methods for entering a trance state other than contemplation, meditation, and it says incubation. That just means being alone, some downtime with self. So it doesn't have to be woo-woo.
Ooh, woo, woo.
Oh, woo. And it says the popular legend that he attempted the ancient methods of flame gazing, water gazing, or both simultaneously is based on a naive reading of his first two verses, which merely liken his efforts to those of Delphic and Branchitic oracles. You know, the Oracle of Delphi.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in his dedication to King Henry II, he describes, quote, emptying my soul, mind, and heart of all care, worry, and unease through mental calm and tranquility, end quote. Some meditation.
Yeah.
You know, these are some of the things that the people in the East, they have known for thousands of years and have not had the same problems with these practices as people in the West. So what is up with that? And it says his frequent references to the bronze tripod of the Delphic rite are usually, predicated by the words as though. He wasn't saying he did it. He was just, because people didn't understand words back then any more than they do today. I don't know, maybe they needed a sarcasm font then as well.
Yeah.
Now, most of the quatrains deal with things like disasters, plagues, earthquakes, wars, invasions, all these things. And a major underlying theme is an impending invasion of Europe by Muslim forces from farther east and south headed by the expected Antichrist, directly reflecting on the then current Ottoman invasions.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, because that was a huge thing back then. Because you talk about some brutalities on every side. And as far as the supposedly imminent end of the world, even though this is not a mentioned fact in any of the quatrains, those have been, surmised. It's like, oh, he must mean this. And so you've got a whole lot of these things that have just been made up. And it says that there are academics that believe that the quatrains, because that they vary so much, were written by later hands with a political axe to grind. So I thought that was really cool. And let's see what they were going to go through here. There were so many things that they claimed that he did and that he had predicted that it was just crazy. And This is one where skeptic James Randi, he actually, he got this one pretty correct. He suggested that the reputation as a prophet of Nostradamus, which, again, we just said that he didn't call himself a prophet,
Right.
is largely manufactured by modern-day supporters who fit his words to events that have either already occurred or are so imminent as to be inevitable, a process sometimes known as retroactive clairvoyance. So that's really neat, and it's called post-diction.
Yeah, that's really cool.
And it's just something to go, yeah, I made that. I talked about that 3 years ago. I didn't tell anybody, but I knew that. So, and then with the arrival of the year 2012, Nostradamus's prophecies started to be, they just blew up again.
Oh, God.
Because there was monies to be made again. And whoever the writer of this is, especially by the History Channel. Oh, yeah, they had lots and lots of shows about that. And claiming that there was evidence that the end of the world was imminent, notwithstanding the fact that his book never mentions the end of the world or the year 2012.
Yeah, because that came from the Mayans.
Yeah, but the thing is, that was the end of a cycle.
Yeah.
It was people's misinterpretations, just like they were talking in the article. You've got people that are trying to interpret these quatrains. They don't understand the French language, especially of that time. It's the same thing with people that are trying to interpret the Bible, that don't read Hebrew, Aramaic, Greek, nothing like that, nor do they put it in context of the time in which it was written. Same thing. And you're going to end up with really warped stuff.
Yeah.
Now, from September 11th, 2001, there was a lot of people that tried to tie that into a Nostradamus prediction. And they're saying that the closest that they could find was quatrain 6.97, which says, and the reasonable English translations, what they say, for 5 and 40 degrees the sky shall burn. To the great new city shall the fire draw nigh. With vehemence the flames shall spread and churn, when with the Normans they conclusions try. Yeah, that's quatrain.
Okay. That confused the fuck out.
Absolutely. And they're saying that 5 and 40 degrees, these people that were using this as an interpretation, was supposed to be the latitude of New York. But New York's latitude is 40 by 47.
Okay.
And then they're like, oh, it was 40.5. But the decimal point had not come into use in Europe in Nostradamus' day.
Right.
So these people are grasping at straws.
Yeah.
And it says that the actual verse, this one academic says, was a verse that was merely an updated projection into the future of the capture of Naples by the Normans in 1139, and was a year that was notably marked by the violent eruption of nearby Mount Vesuvius. Because nothing that Nostradamus predicted had anything to do with America at all.
No.
Now, the hoax, they have a Nostradamus hoax, which is about Mabbus as Antichrist. Now, some of these get into pretty interesting.
Okay.
Some have interpreted the writings as predicting a series of 3 Antichrists. However, the name Mabbus, as a synonym for or an embodiment of the 3rd Antichrist, is allegedly not suggested in any of the prophecies. In fact, the verse in question, which is 2.62, merely states that a character of a similar sounding name will die. Okay. And it's one of those that it says, Mars at the point of an arrow, behind the river, the ladder put to the fort, points to fire, great murder on the beach, or the breach. Mabbus will soon die. There will come of people and beast a horrible rout.
Okay.
Could you be any more obscure than that? Because it's like, what the hell? But they did say, well, they said that attempts have been made to link the name Mabus with Obama, Saddam, Osama, and Bush.
The fuck?
But, however, Mabus is acknowledged to be the surname of a longtime U.S. political figure, Ray Mabus. Which is this kind of one of those, I don't know what he died. I should have looked to see what he was. Now, this was a brilliant hoax. Mm-hmm. Well, you don't know what the Ray Mabus is either.
No.
You know.
That's what I'm saying.
We'll have to look that up.
I don't know shit about shit.
Yeah. The Village Idiot hoax. And it says, following the 2000 U.S. presidential election with George W. Bush, that this text was widely circulated. Come the millennium, month 12, in the home of greatest power, the village idiot will come forth to be acclaimed the leader.
Oh, God.
As with other hoaxes, only the purported English translation was given. It is likely that this verse was written as a joke. No shit.
Sherlock.
That was funny. And then there was another one with the World Trade Center prophecy hoax, which those kind of insidious.
Those are fucked up. Those are
yeah.
And you just don't.
No, you don't. And it says that this one was signed, supposedly, Nostradamus, 1654, which he would have been 150 years old when this one was written. But this hoax says, in the city of God, there will be a great thunder, two brothers torn apart by chaos while the fortress endures. The great leader will succumb. The third big war will begin when the big city is burning. And it says that, as it turns out, the first four lines were indeed written before the attacks by a Canadian graduate student named Neil Marshall as part of a 1997 research paper. And the research paper included the poem as an illustration of how the validity of prophecies is often exaggerated.
Oh.
And it's like, oh shit, he was the one that wrote, that was kind of freaky.
He put it into reality, fuck him.
And this one was one of my favorites. This is the Psy hoax. Towards mid-December of 2012, an internet hoax related to the South Korean singer and rapper Psy being one of the four horsemen of the apocalypse was widely circulated around social media platforms. The hoax text, which was supposedly written by Nostradamus in 1503, is as follows. From the calm morning, the end will come. When of the dancing horse, the number of circles will be 9. And it says that the calm morning is to be in reference to Psy's birth country, South Korea, nicknamed in English the land of morning calm. Dancing horse refers to Psy's Gangnam Style dancing horse routine. And then the 9 circles refer to the number of zeros in 1 billion, which is 9. And supposedly it was believed that once the Gangnam Style video on YouTube hit 1 billion views, the world would end. It says that it did reach 1 billion views December 21st, 2012, a popular date for which the world was predicted to end.
Yeah.
However, the quatrain could not have been written by Nostradamus in 1503. And he was born in December that year, which was interesting. I thought that was hilarious. One of the other things that they did this with psyops during World War II, because Nostradamus, of course, with the French, they believed this. The Germans massively believed in his prophecies, and so they would drop these flyers with the supposed quatrains trying to get people to give up because Nostradamus had predicted whatever.
Yeah.
And the Allies, they did the same thing. But what I thought was interesting, that Hitler actually issued a mandatory prosecution of any diviner or fortune teller in all Nazi occupied countries.
Oh shit!
I thought that was weird because he was so massively into the occult that it wasn't even funny. So, Nostradamus, I'm a fan. The people that are using him to make big bucks, I'm not a fan.
No.
I'm a fan of him because he was on the front lines fighting the plague.
Mm-hmm.
So,
you good man.
Yeah. If you have paranormal, supernatural experiences, encounters, UFOs, aliens, cryptids, plague doctors, local, regional, family, myths, or legends, let us know how you view Nostradamus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'd be interested to know.
Sure. And you can send us an email, cupofcoffeewithscream@gmail.com.
Mm-hmm.
And have a beautiful, blessed day.
Don't forget to like, share, comment, and most of all, subscribe and click that little notification button. Yes.
Bye.
See you later, alligator.